My name's Nathan. I'm a fresh in here. Bangor. Snake my whole life. And yeah, most of you might have seen my previous talk and might be pretty bored of it, so I've prepared a different talk for today. It's titled Living with Dragons, basically my observational notes on the natural history of this species, Xenodermus javanicus. So, first off, what is a dragon snake? I've taken this from De Roy in 1917. It's a very old book. It's one of the most complete books on the reptile fauna of the Indo-Australian archipelago. So it's pretty old, and here she described it as a very small snake with, where's this? Slender body, small keel, juxtaposed scales, and longitudinal rows of large tubercles. So you can see in this drawing, they didn't have cameras at the time, so they drew it, and yeah, they kind of got it right. So that's what they, people thought it looked like. That's what it was drawn to look like, and that's what it does look like. So the drawing was quite accurate. It showed the characters pretty well. So this is a real one, a picture of a real one. So you can see these dorsal scales, yeah, the large tubercles on the on the dorsum. So these are longitudinal rows, and there are 2 rows on the dorsum as well. So they're really cool, and that's why they're called the dragon snake, right? But they're very small. So they're probably about this big, around 225 millimeters. It's not that length for an adult, so they don't get very big. And then it is it's a single species, Xenodermus javanicus, of the genus and the families Xenodermidae. Right, so De Roy described it to be a rare species in the distribution. So it's distributed in Java, Borneo, Sumatra, and the Malay Peninsula. So it's about Southeast Asian species. But is it though? Is it a rare species? Maybe, we just don't know enough about them, right? So this is it's kind of the western side of Indonesia. This is where I live, in Bangor, not Bangor, Bangor, right? So the other side of the world. Now, Mount Halimun Salak National Park is in West Java. It comprises of 2 mountains, Mount Halimun and Mount Salak. So it's in West Java, and we zoom into the island of Java. So you can see on the west, you've got that national park over there. And as we zoom in again, right, Taman Nasional means national park in Indonesia. So Gunung is mountain. So basically, Mount Halimun Salak National Park is like this whole area here. And if we zoom in again, this is Mount Salak, and this is Bangor. So I live about there somewhere. And yeah, this is the area, the red circle, is where I've found these dragon snakes. Now, I can't go into very specific locations because they're pretty sensitive species. I don't want to disclose the specific location of it. But in about 2 years ago, I went out herping with a friend to this little stream, right? I've got a picture of the stream here, in fact. Okay, fantastic. So it's a little stream in the mountain, on Mount Salak, somewhere on that massive mountain, right? We found this little stream, and we're like, let's go herping at night. And we went, did some herping, we found some really cool animals. So let me just give you a picture of the habitat type. So it's a montane forest. It's in about an elevation of about 800 to 1,000 meters above sea level. So it's pretty cool there. And we follow this stream, so we walk on the sides in the stream. And we just follow it upriver to the waterfall. So, yeah, so it starts at about 750, 800, and then we go up to about 1,000 meters above sea level. And so it's a small, clear, very unpolluted stream. Like, I can drink from it, no problem at all. Temperature during the day, it's about 23 to 25 degrees Celsius, and it's about 80 to 90% humidity. So it's very humid in the habitat. And at night, still in the same habitat, temperature drops to about 17 to 19 degrees Celsius, and it's still very, very humid because it's, in a stream, near a source of water. And here's a very special snake. Right, and what I noticed when I was herping 2 years ago in this stream, there's a lot of amphibians. So we found about 14 species. I've recorded 14 species over the past 2 years in this little stream alone. Right, so we've got here Limnonectes scully, the Coles Creek frog. We've got Hawaii Amazoni, I don't know what it's called, Javan torrent frog. Right, so that's endemic to Java. You have Megophrys montana, horned frog, which is endemic to Java. Then you've got the small microhyla, they're about that size. So there's a lot of different amphibians from different families. You've got the raccophorids, you've got the ranids, you've got the dicroglossids, Megophrys, and you've got the microhylids. So you've got a lot of different species of amphibians. And so that could be the reason why there's a really high concentration of dragon snakes in this area. So this stream, when I was herping there, I haven't finished my story. So yeah, I was herping there and we found 4 dragon snakes in one night. So I was like, wow, right? Because they're supposed to be a rare species, and then you go find 4 in one night. And I went back there the next day, and then we still found like 2 or 3, and then like I've never not seen one in this area when the water level was low. So when the water level is pretty high, then maybe they hide and something, I will get to that soon, to their behaviour. So the dragon snakes are pretty abundant, and perhaps it's because of the high diversity of amphibians, which are a food source for them. So these 2 species, they're very likely to be prey for the dragon snake because they're very abundant, especially this is the most abundant species, and they're terrestrial as well. So everything here, except for these 2, are terrestrial. This is terrestrial and arboreal, this is arboreal. Maybe the dragon snakes might not get to them, and the adults are quite large. But this one's pretty small, that one, okay, the juveniles of all those terrestrial amphibians could be potentially prey for the dragon snake. Now, right, so where have we found the dragon snake? The little micro-habitats of the dragon snake. I've never seen them swimming in water, but I always find them, most of the time, on the rocks, hunting at night. So I usually go about 10, 11 p.m. up to sunrise, so about 4, 5 a.m., just following the stream. And they're usually, yeah, on the rocks, hunting. They're always out hunting. First one I found, it was stretched out on the rock, just stretched out, moving quite slowly. So, yeah, they go hunt on the rocks. And then they're also found on the, what do you call this, riverbank, slope, cliff, whatever. So it's very highly vegetated, very humid, and they're often seen climbing on this and in the vegetation as well. Yeah, they are quite active at night. So we think they're nocturnal, but they could be crepuscular as well, because I've seen one about 5 a.m. in the morning, just before the sun rises. It was out hunting on the rocks there. So this is the dragon snake, a pretty picture. So this was where it was found. I just kind of posed it a bit to get the general morphology of the animal, but it was found, stretched out on a rock on the riverbank. And this is on one of those really tall slopes, very humid, a lot of moss, a lot of vegetation, and it was just crawling around, right? This is, I didn't touch it, this is in situ, as it was found in this kind of position. So they're not really, gnarly, sort of cool type of snakes, but they're very placid. They look dead, basically. They don't look really alive, right? But it was very, very well alive, yeah? So, yeah. And they're known to be quite semi-fossorial. Apart from the dragon snake, they're also called the rough-backed litter snake, which because they have been recorded from leaf litter. So they live in leaf litter. So they could be semi-fossorial or fossorial, living, going through the loose substrate. So that's why they've got these enlarged rostral and nasal scales, I think, here. So helps them dig. So they're really strong scales over here, and they've got very rough, granular scales. That could be, something that helps them move through the substrate. And Richard Cazares in America, he's kept some of these quite successfully in captivity for about, I think, a year now it is. and he's recorded them climbing quite a lot of times. So I've seen one on one of these slopes, and in a sort of tree bush type thing, doing the same thing, and I was like so excited, didn't get a picture and just grabbed it. But yeah, so they have been recorded to climb. They're not known to be an arboreal species, but we have found them climbing on short little bush type plants. And so they have a long tail, which is one of the descriptions in Deroy's book. So the tail starts from about here up to the tip. So it's a pretty long tail. It could be a prehensile tail as well, which aids in climbing for the animal. So that might be a thought. So we don't know so much about the behaviour and ecology of the dragon snake. So there is still so much to learn. So yeah, I'm not a scientist. I'm just a field herper tour guide. But I'm just sharing the observations that I have seen with this special species. So Xenodermus javanicus is least concern under IUCN. It's the assessment justification is that faces no major threats and is widespread geographically, so it's least concern. But things may change for this species because there are potential threats. Well, they are threats already now. There's overcollection for the pet trade since a few years ago, because people have seen the pictures of these things. Everybody wants a dragon snake because they're so cool, very charismatic, very unique animals. So a lot of people want to keep these snakes, and nobody's breeding them in captivity. I think some people have managed to breed them, but it's very rare. And then so most of these animals are wild caught, and that is not good for the population if you keep taking them from the wild without any sort of sustainability things, guidelines. So yeah, they are quite heavily collected over the past few years, and they don't do very well in captivity. Most of them die on the way, and a lot of people don't keep them properly because they're very sensitive animals. They live in a very specialized sort of habitat, so they don't do really well in captivity. So not very hardy. That's one. And habitat destruction. So that, again, because they live in such a specific habitat, highland, montane forest, with a clear, very humid, clear, unpolluted streams. So if you destroy the habitat, they're very vulnerable to habitat destruction because, they live in such a specific habitat. And climate change as well. I mean, if the temperature changes, it's going to alter the whole ecosystem, the whole habitat that this species lives in. So it's a potential threat for this animal, and I think that is my talk. Thank you very much. Any questions? Yes, sir.
So have they been observed and recorded as eating involved?
Yeah, I've got a friend who's kept them before in Indonesia. He's an animal trader, so he sells a lot of these ones. Keeps them in an air-conditioned room, so he's keeping them for about a few months, and he chucks some frogs in the box, and a few days later, frogs are not there anymore. So it's quite probable that the snake has eaten the frog. And also, in America, Richard Cazares, he feeds them on, I think, tadpoles. So yeah, they do feed on frogs and tadpoles as well. Yes?
Does the box have a lid?
Yeah, the box did have a lid, so I don't think the frogs escaped. Anything else? Yeah.
In terms of the IUCN classification,
No, you don't.
rare species are with no threat, why do you think we've chosen least concern?
It's probably quite, there's very
Yes,
little
Stuart.
information on the ecology of behaviour, so
Go on.
I personally think it's data deficient, but it's been assessed by real scientists, so I can't say much there. Yeah, but there's very little literature on the ecology of behaviour of species.
Have you seen much evidence of exploitation? Have you gone to sites and you've seen lower numbers as a result?
No, because I haven't been able to compare anything. I've only started seeing them 2 years ago. And but I've seen, you know, on Facebook, a lot of these groups since 2016. There've been so many, you know, bucket loads of these like pictures of a bucket full of these snakes for sale, and in international reptile trade groups as well. A lot of people have been selling dragon snakes. Is that it? Okay, fantastic.
Sorry, Nathan. Nathan,
Yeah.
someone's just asked, being fossorial, one would assume earthworms would be on the menu.
Maybe
Earthworms?
Maybe earthworms would be on the menu. We don't know much about it, so yeah, there's still much to learn about this species.
Interesting.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Love you, Nathan!